Welcome into In the Trenches with Tanner Kern and former CFL defensive lineman Maxx Forde. Max, we have a huge Thursday night football game to start the week, big slate in general, but I can't tell who is going to win this football game. I think it's must win for Dallas. I think on the flip side, there's a lot of sharp bettors on the Giants tonight. So just looking at who's going to win it straight up, who are you taking? And then as far as a cover, who would you lean towards?
And I want to take Dallas just because I do still think they have more talent. They haven't really shown it, especially on defense the last few weeks. They went from a team that you wanted to avoid for your offensive overs last year to a team that you're picking on them, especially if you're looking in the running game. They're just not – it's not the same group right now. Obviously, Dan Quinn left during the offseason, so maybe that has some impact. But I still got to choose them to take the game. They do have talent along that roster. You've got a guy like Micah Parsons, who last year was challenging for that decoy. You've got guys at all three levels that can play on defense. They have, again, hasn't all come together. But you look for them to make some plays. They lost some guys on the offensive line as well. They've still got, I feel like, enough of an emphasis on that group to be able to do something. You've seen a little bit of garbage time production from their offense. Hopefully they can do it when it matters this week. For if you're a Dallas fan. From the Giants side, the defensive line we've talked about before, I think when they played right before they played Washington is kind of a strong point for their team. The running game has been looking decent with Singletary, which not sure if they can rely on that. And then Malik Neighbors, though, has been a revelation, obviously. So I still don't think that as a full roster, they have the talent that Dallas does, and I think that kind of gets them tonight. But I think I'll go with Dallas there.
Yeah, I wouldn't lay the points with Dallas. I do think Dallas wins the game, though, just because when you look at the Cowboys right now, they've been bad against the run, but they've been bad against Alvin Kamara, and they've been bad against Derrick Henry. So, like, looking at this game, this is the one where you should say, hey, Micah Parsons can get this team right, and this front seven can play well. But you just never know, because might have thought that last week against Derrick Henry. Might have said there's moments there where they could have stopped him, and he just kept charging through contact, and they missed tackles. But I do think tonight goes in favor of Dallas. We'll see, though. Never know. Never know with the boys.
Yeah. Any given Sunday or Thursday.
And there's been a lot. The favorites have gone down like crazy this year. And one favorite, though, that I don't think is going to go down this week is the San Francisco 49ers. This is our biggest mismatch of the week. You have the Niners coming to this game as a 10-point favorite over New England. Yeah. You know, in this situation here, when you're looking at the Patriots, I really like what they can do up front with David Andrews. I think David Andrews is a fantastic offensive lineman. I love what he does at center. However, the whole unit is just not going to really be able to keep up with the 49ers in this game. So, Max, does Ramondre Stevenson even reach like 30 yards in this one?
Well, I don't want to be too reactionary because the first 2 weeks he looked like that. They were running the ball pretty well, and he was doing great output. And obviously then they run into that game last week where they go against the Jets, and he's not going anywhere, fumbling the ball. And so a lot of times I think we can be prisoners of the moment. I do think this running game can make something happen. I think he can get to, if we're setting it over-under at 30 yards, I think he gets there. I'm not expecting him to set the world on fire. I'm not expecting one of those games that he had the first 2 weeks. But 30 yards is a threshold. I think that the way they want to get him the ball all offseason, you saw like headlines coming out of New England that they wanted to run the ball. They wanted to be a running team, and you can tell they want to run that running offense through Ramondre Stevenson. There's a little bit of Antonio Gibson mixed in there, but I think he can get to 30 yards with that volume especially.
Yeah, and the biggest thing I'd be looking at if you're looking at Ramondre Stevenson props is just over on the rushing plus the receiving, because I think Jacoby Brissett's going to be under a lot of stress this week. We saw it with the New York Jets last week. It wasn't very pretty. So I think San Francisco has a good day, gets the quarterback here, and this one ends early. Another thing too, Max, like, did you ever have a situation when you were playing where you were going against a team where you just didn't respect the pass and you loaded up the box?
I mean, it's like we've talked about young quarterbacks, and a lot of times it happens with those guys just because the experience can mean so much at that position and how you can manipulate a defense, and some of those younger guys can't do it. And also sometimes we've seen some of that trickle up of play calling, like coming from college game up to the pros, like I guess high school game up to the college game up to the pro game. There's a little bit of symbiotic relationship between the play calling, between all those levels, and pros are always learning from those guys. And we've seen some of the simplification of the schemes, and I think sometimes that's made it a little bit more difficult. But as an offense, but as a defense, because of that, some of those quarterbacks don't have those skills of making those calls at the line and making the right play call. So loading up the box, daring them to do what you don't believe they can do is definitely something that you can throw at a team. And Jacoby Brissett, veteran guy, but I mean, nobody's gonna mistake him for Peyton Manning or anything. So
Yeah, he can only do so much with the offensive line, with the offense in general, with the skill players there. So moving into our budget plays here, these are under $3,000 when you're looking at your DFS slate. First one, we have the Minnesota defense going against the Green Bay Packers offense. You can get Minnesota for $2,900 right now. Max, I know you're high on this Minnesota team. I didn't think they would be as good after losing Danielle Hunter. I thought that would really hurt them, but they've just found ways to force turnovers. They've found ways to, get a lot of tackles for loss and really shut down their opponents. And credit to this is complimentary football too. I don't want to take away from the offense. Sam Darnold and the offense has done an excellent job putting the defense in winning situations. So, why do you like this play for 2,900 against a loaded Green Bay Packers offense?
Yeah. It's definitely a loaded offense, especially expecting Jordan Love back. But even with Malik Willis, they've looked a lot better than we've expected. Loaded offense, respect them. But we talked about Minnesota last week as an option against Houston. It was one that definitely made me nervous. But if you played that, I think you felt pretty good about the outcome. I just think this Minnesota defense is one of those teams that they have a defense that the matchup matters a little bit less. Matchup always is going to matter, of course. But they've proven that they can shut down offenses that a lot of people have a lot of respect for. In San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, when they still had Debo out there, still had Kittle out there. Obviously, CMC's been out all season, but they still had the majority of their weapons out there. And Minnesota shut those guys down, and then they go in last week and do what they did to Houston. I just think this is a defense that is playing really good football right now. And I think at a price of $2,900, when you get a defense that's playing like that, it's one that you definitely got to think about regardless of who they're playing.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. It's going to be a good matchup. I mean, the biggest thing, you got to get a pass rush on Jordan Love, especially, he's still coming off the injury, probably not feeling great there. So this is definitely a moment where you got to get pressure. I think Minnesota has guys to do that. Looking at the Rams and the Bears, Max, this was the scariest line of the week for me looking at it. The Chicago is favored by 2.5 points coming into this football game. And I just don't know why. I don't understand it. The Rams coming off the win over the 49ers. I know they're beat up, but Chicago really hasn't shown any signs of life on offense. So, before we even talk about the DFS slate, did you think that spread was a little crazy?
Yeah, that like you said, we haven't seen signs of life from Chicago on offense. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of a breakout game where it clicks eventually. But I would like to see it before I'm favoring them in games against teams that just, again, it was a depleted San Francisco team last week, but still, the Rams are very depleted as well. I think they might be more injured than the 49ers are even. So for them to get that win was huge, and I think it's disrespectful for the line to be set the way it is right now. But, I mean, Vegas knows something maybe.
Vegas always knows. So that's a sign when the line looks that weird, you usually bet the side that looks weird. So that would be Chicago here. But you're on the Rams defense against the Bears offense, and I think pretty self-explanatory here. I don't trust Chicago's offensive line. I don't trust Caleb Williams right now. Is that the primary reason you're looking at this one?
That, and I do like the young defensive line for the Rams as well. They haven't gotten their sack numbers up really like that yet, but they are generating a lot of pressure. When you look at Kobe Turner, when you look at Jared Verse, and look at Braden Fisk there, they're all I think I saw Fisk and Verse were the top two rookies in terms of pressures so far this season, which that's a home run there, especially when you're talking about Fisk playing more of an interior defensive line position. So. And then obviously Kobe Turner, one of the best rookies we had last year. And it's a good young group. I'm sure they're going to grow together over the years, but I think that in conjunction with what you're saying, the Bears offensive line just hasn't looked good. It's a good chance for this this group to kind of gel a little bit more and maybe add to those sack numbers against a quarterback who likes to hold the ball and try to extend the play.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And this next one here is why you watch this show. I mean, this could be the sharpest DFS pick I've ever seen if it pays off here. You got the Chargers defense going against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs offense for $2,600 here. You know, when you think of Kansas City, you have that Kansas City bias. And like I would equate this to if the New York Giants won the football game tonight, I would just say I didn't take them because I have Giants bias. I don't think they're that good of a football team. They haven't been historically, and the Cowboys are better historically. When you think of the Chiefs, I think we still think of this team that lights up the scoreboard, throws it all over the field. That just hasn't been the case this year. Patrick Mahomes, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Even last week, you don't have Pacheco. You run it a lot with Carson Steele. So looking at this play for $2,600, I like it. As good as the Chiefs' offensive line is up front with Creed Humphrey, as good as their skill players can be, and obviously Patrick Mahomes, Chargers have a good defense here.
Yeah, going against Kansas City, even with like you said, I have that bias to it. It still gives me heartburn, even though like this year, even into last year, like they haven't been that team that gets the explosives. They've leaned a lot more on the running game, managing the game well, and strong defense, and they've won a lot of games and the Super Bowl doing that. But you still feel like they have the potential for those explosives, which makes it a little bit scary. But we haven't seen it so far this year. Chargers do have a strong defense. They've put a big emphasis, obviously, with Harbaugh coming in on being a physical team, and they've put their money where their mouth is, putting the capital, whether dollars or draft capital, into positions that not the glamorous positions, the guys that are playing those physical spots. And then you've got 2 guys that are a little bit longer in the tooth than the other LA team, but that are still scary for opposing offenses, in Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. So I think it's a good spot to try to pick one there. One that I'm always nervous about because, like we said, it's still Kansas City, but I think it's one that you can try to pick your spot and play here.
Yeah, and then from a betting perspective, would lean under with all the Chargers injuries they got going on right now. With the way the Chiefs are playing football, you're still getting bookmakers pricing it a little higher, or the total a little higher, just because of the Chiefs have the ability to pop off. They just have not done that by their playing style. But Max, looking at the 3 on the board here, what's the favorite and why?
So, I think this week I am looking at Minnesota just because I know it's against a better opponent than the other 2 that I picked there. But you don't get elite defenses at this price. And I do think it's early, small sample size, so I could look very silly here in a few weeks. We look back. But this does feel like an elite defense. They're making good teams look very bad. And I think that's a sign of a team that makes offenses go on long drives and prove that they can finish them. And so far they haven't been. I think with Jordan Love coming back from the injury, assuming that he is, you also get a quarterback that maybe isn't as mobile as he normally is in the pocket, not manipulating the pocket the same way. And so you might be able to get to him a little bit more. And we saw with Justin Herbert last week, you got a guy coming back from injury. Sometimes if you get to him, it can knock him out of the game again. So, you have that too, because you have, I'm sure at practice this week, Jordan Love splitting reps, taking the majority of the reps. And if he gets knocked out, then you have Malik Willis, who, again, respect to him, he's done a lot better than I've expected. But Malik Willis without the practice reps, I'm assuming is going to be a little bit tougher than it has been recently, and against this defense, this Minnesota defense. So I'm going to spend up to the $2,900 to take a defense that I truly believe in. It's also, I will say, a tough week of budget plays this week. That under $3,000 price this week felt pretty thin, but I'm going to take that Minnesota defense here.
Yeah, and the slate, just in general, from a viewing perspective, is not great this weekend, and that's the sign. Like, you usually don't get good defensive prices because you get a ton of massive mismatches for teams. So it's definitely a lot harder to pick. If I had to go with one, I'm going to go with the sharp play from you, Max. I would take the Chargers defense against the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Why not? $2,600. You can spend elsewhere there. And when you look at the Chiefs right now, it's a different style of play. This is not going to be a shootout. The Chargers offense is not going to require the Chiefs to try to throw the ball all over the field and put up points. So I do think that's a risky play, but one that could pay off.
Yeah, I like the play too. It's yeah, you definitely gotta dig down deep inside your soul and kind of get that gut check there.
Definitely. So one thing you're looking forward to in week 4.
Yeah, so week 4, that Monday night game looks kind of fun. We've got a Seattle team that is undefeated right now with a new head coach, new style of play there. They got new offensive coordinator again coming up from the college game, so kind of what we talked about before. That team looks really good so far, but they're going against a team that was kind of last year's darling in Detroit, and now Detroit is expected to be a team that is up in that upper echelon. So you get a game in prime time with two teams that are trying to prove who they are. I think that's just going to be a fun game. A lot of physical football, I feel like, as well. You got a Dan Campbell team who obviously he's known for being physical, and then you've got a team coached by a defensive coordinator who, we like to hit. The defensive guys like those big hits. I know, trying to outlaw them in the game, but I just think this is looking like a fun matchup to me. So I'm really excited about that Monday night game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Sunday night Bills-Ravens. It's going to be an awesome game. I think we're going to see a big offensive showdown there. So can't wait for that one. There are a few big games on the calendar for sure, but the overall slate this week, just I'll be looking to college football with Alabama and Georgia. I think that's the one. That's the one I think I'm most forward to, and just in general in football this week. Yeah,
well, and like you have the two games we mentioned are on the Monday night or on the primetime slate too, so you can't even get them in DFS in your typical DFS contest. So there's like you said, a lot of the games that we have on the main slate are a little bit rough. So college football weekend.
There you go, college football weekend. Well, Max, it was a pleasure. That was week 4, guys, in the trenches here. We'll be back next week, talk about week 5, break down DFS defenses and the biggest mismatches of the week. We'll see you soon.
All right.